Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. So, do you guys know what this is? Recognize this, anybody? Louder. I'm a computer, yes. And this big black box is a famous IBM machine called Deep Blue. And in 1997, it famously beat Garry Kasparov. And in that famous game, we saw for the first time a computer could beat humans in one of the most complicated board games. And why is that? Because in chess, there are over 400 different opening moves, 20 by black and 20 by white. And for the longest time, people thought this was something that only human intellect could beat. And yet, we saw IBM's Deep Blue defeated Kasparov. And so, of course, as humans, we always want to tackle the next biggest challenge. And so scientists then decided to try to go for the game of Go. And in the game of Go, it's even more complicated than chess. Because in Go, there are over 129,000 different opening moves. If chess is considered the battle, then Go is the war. And until 2014, Wired magazine had predicted that it would take another 10 years before a computer system could beat humans at Go. But if you guys have been following news at all, you'll have seen that just last year, Google Go's AlphaGo system beat 18 times world champion Lee Sedol. And of course, we saw then, again, computers beating humans. So of course, you might say, chess and Go are both board games. What about poker? Poker players here? Yeah? So poker, though, as you know, is a game that requires bluffing, that requires intellect, to be able to read your opponents and to read their facial expressions. Can a computer system actually beat humans? Again, yes. So just earlier this year, there was a team from Carnegie Mellon called Liberatus that defeated the 4 world champions of Texas Hold'em in a 20-day marathon game of poker. And in that game, they handsomely pocketed $1.7 million. Not bad. So why am I telling you these stories? Why am I telling you and talking about all these games? Well, the thing is, that phone that you have in your pocket right now, if it's so good at understanding humans' emotions, that phone may one day be able to help you negotiate the price of that new Tesla car. And that's not that far away. Just earlier this year, the Facebook chatbots have even started to negotiate with each other. So they can negotiate with each other. They can maybe one day negotiate the price of the car or help negotiate world peace. The world is our oyster. We are at a cusp. We're at that cusp, that intersection. And we're that little black stick figure right there. We're the cusp of innovation coming and stemming from artificial intelligence. And so with that, I'm going to help you understand what's coming on. So why are we all talking about it? PwC published a report saying that artificial intelligence will drive $15.7 trillion in GDP growth by 2030. And in Europe, where we all here, it's going to drive $2.5 trillion in GDP growth. Those are huge, astronomical numbers. But what does it mean for us, right? What does it mean for us today as HR professionals? So we're here today, and I'm here to help you demystify what the heck AI is. My colleague, Maria, tweeted this earlier this year. She said, AI is like teenage sex. Everyone talks about it. Nobody knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, so claims to do it too. And so if you're here right now in the audience thinking, oh my gosh, AI is a buzzword and stuff, I'm not quite sure what it means, don't worry. Because in the next 30 minutes, by the end of it, you too will be able to call bullshit when someone says, this is AI. And you'll be able to know what is truth versus reality. So let's start with a simple framework of how to think about all these terms of machine learning and deep learning and AI. AI is just a small section of the larger trend of automation. And automation has been around since the first industrial revolution. And even artificial itself has been around since the 1950s. So AI is not something super new. It's been around. It's been a concept that we've talked about and thought about for a while. And to help make sense of this, we created the TopBot's Machine Intelligence Continuum to talk about the different phases of machine intelligence. So at the basics, you have systems that act. Systems that act are super simple, rule-based. If I say A, you say B. If I say C, you say D. An example is cruise control. With cruise control, every time my speed falls below a certain limit, it automatically presses the pedometer and accelerate. But at no point when I'm driving that car would I take my hands off and say, "Woo, self-driving car." I know it's just cruise control. So it's a simple system that acts. The next system in this framework is a system that thinks. And a system that thinks is one that takes, for example, in chess, and predicts the values of every single board. And it takes those systems to think, and it makes predictions. Predictions based on the unknown into the known, using probability. And so in that chess game, every single board had a probability. Have you guys here in the UK heard about the story of how Target predicted that a teenage girl was pregnant before her parents did? Does this sound familiar? Well, a couple years ago, Target targeted this teenage girl, with ads of pregnancy, diapers, and things like that. And her father angrily marched into Target demanding to speak with the manager, saying, "How dare you send these baby coupons to my teenage daughter?" And then a month later, he recanted, saying, "Oh, you knew that my daughter was pregnant before I even did." And how did Target know this? It knew this because it looked at 25 products that pregnant women tended to buy, including unscented lotion, jumbo cotton balls, and calcium and magnesium pills. So if one of your friends starts buying a lot of these products, you too will know that she might be pregnant. But what Target really did was look at machine learning and statistics and analyze that and that data to determine with a probability, a prediction, that that person was pregnant. And that is a system that thinks, thinking using data. The next stage in the machine continuum are systems that learn. And this is where it gets very interesting. And this is also where people start considering this machine learning and actual artificial intelligence. So historical systems, such as the one that beat Garry Kasparov, were ones that had millions of lines of code behind it. So IBM's computer system programmed thousands and thousands of lines to teach that computer how to play the game of chess. But what if you were in a system that you didn't know how to play the game? Or what if you didn't know how to write all those lines of code? New machine learning techniques now allow you to do things where you actually learn by itself. So for example, Google decided to teach Atari games to a computer. Have you guys played this game Breakout from when we were a child, where you had a ball, a brick, and your goal was to hit the ball to the bricks? So here's a really quick video showing you how a computer system learns. So here, in the beginning of the training, the computer system's pretty bad, right? It keeps on losing. But after 120 minutes, it starts getting smarter. It learns over time. It was never taught what is a ball, what is a brick. And the brilliance of the magic came after 240 minutes. It learns, as you will see, the tunneling technique, where it just goes up there, and it learned on its own. So that just shows you the arc of a computer system that gets smarter and learns. That's where you have the term deep learning. Everyone hear this term before? Yeah, and they're like, what does it mean, right? Well, the definition is, deep learning is a set of algorithms that attempt to model high-level abstractions in data by using architectures composed of multiple non-linear transformations. Got it? Yeah. Instead, I'd like to explain deep learning using this book of chairs. And yes, while also wanting to be an astronaut, I also aspired to be a designer. So go figure what I was like a kid. But I love this design book because it was super interesting. There were these avant-garde chairs in this book. I'd pore over it. and you had fancy chairs like this Ermin Miller one that's super pricey. And then you had these chairs, and it brought up the question of, what is a chair, right? It's very simple. But is a chair something that has 4 legs? But then would this be considered a chair? It only has 3. Okay, I got it. A chair is something that has legs. What about this? Could this be considered a chair? Maybe a chair is something that you can sit on. What about this? You can sit on and sit on comfortably. Or maybe something I just can put my butt in. But this, a rowing chair. I don't think I would fit in that one. Or how about this, the impossible chair? It's a museum exhibit, which I don't think anyone would want to sit on. Or this block of wood. Could this be a chair? It can if you buy it from a designer furniture store and decide to pay $98. And if you're hipster and want to splurge a little bit more, you can turn it into a side table. That is the power of human imagination and human intelligence. The ability to turn simple blocks of wood into fancy designer furniture. But let's reflect on what just happened here. This is similar to what happens in machine learning. You take an input, in this case, images, and then from it, you sense. You look at the textures, you look at the colors, and then you segment it, figuring out the different parts. You extract the different features. This is a leg, this is where I put my butt, this is the back. And then you classify it, determining what type of chair it is. You process it. Okay, this is a stool, this is a lawn chair, or this is a chair for Barbies. And then you make a decision, is this a chair or not? And using this in millions and millions of images, you can use a process of deep learning to identify what is a chair. And that's what's happening in these deep neural networks. You have one side where you put in the input, which are images of chairs to teach it. It goes through a neural network similar to what our brains do, and then it outputs a decision. And in that facial recognition technology, you know how you're like, oh my God, how does Facebook know that that's the name of my friend and tag my friends before I even do? It's using this type of deep learning to recognize faces. Similar to the chair example, rather than looking for the leg or the back, it looks for the edge of my chin, or looks for the edge of my eyes or my nose. And using these deep neural networks decides, oh, is this John, is this Sean, or somebody else? And you can use that even to identify things like this. Is it a chihuahua or a muffin? Very important thing to do. So you might be thinking, why now though? You're like, Addie, you said artificial intelligence has been around since the 1950s. But why are we talking about AI and why is it such the hype that we're all sitting here today? Couple reasons. One, we're just swimming in data. The last couple of years, you heard the buzzwords big data. And with that big data that's been collected from all of the different ways that we use mobile, our different social networks, and all the IoT sensors around us, we're now able to use that data and process it and use it to make decisions. And the second is processing power. So this is a perceptron machine. So this predated that big black IBM machine, Deep Blue. And in the very early days in the 1950s, this was the first machine that they were able to do some neural networks on. But we've come so far away from that. We're now using video game chips, actually, a system called GPUs, to do a lot of the AI processing so that we're able to do those deep different layers to process those algorithms. So those are systems that learn, and machine learning and deep learning that we talk about all the time. The next stage of the machine intelligence continuum are systems that create. And this is where it gets really, really fun. A computer scientist, of course, decided to train his model on 14 million lines of romance novels. So basically, imagine this computer reading lots of romantic novels in its free time. And then computer scientists gave it this image and said, computer, go tell me what you think is happening in this image. And this is what the computer said. He was a shirtless man in the back of his mind, and I let out a curse as he leaned over to kiss me on the shoulder. He wanted to strangle me, considering the beautiful boy I'd become wearing his boxers. This computer had read one too many romance novels. But you could see, right, it was trained on those lines, those 14 million lines, and it created this. Imagine if that computer was trained on horror books, it'd be a very, very different story. So that's this example of a computer system that's creating. So now we're going to do a quick little game called Human or Bot. So the objective is, can you tell if something was written by a computer or a human? Do you think you guys will be good at this? Yeah? Okay, I think you guys can handle this. So 3 passages. The first passage. A shallow magnitude 4.9 earthquake was reported Monday morning 5 miles from westward California, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The tremble occurred at 6:25 a.m. Pacific time at a depth of 5 miles. Okay, who thinks it was written by a robot? Okay, about 40%. Written by a human? Okay, 60%. Well, this was written by augmented science and written by a computer. So a lot of these now, weather reports, sports reports, can easily be written, especially with numbers and things, by computer systems. Okay, next one. Kitty couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Her nerves are strained as 2 tight strings. And even a glass of hot wine that Joseph made her drink did not help her. Lying in bed, she kept going over and over that monstrous scene at the meadow. Okay. Robot? Okay. 30%. Human? 70%. Again, this was written by a computer system in 72 hours. Okay, last one. How little we know of what there is to know. I wish I were going to live a long time instead of going to die today, because I've learned much about life in these 4 days. More, I think, than all other time. Okay, robot? 30%. You guys are now, and humans? Okay, 70%. This, my friends, especially the 30% of you, was written by Ernest Hemingway, For Whom the Bell Tolls. So, it gets tricky, right? I know I set you up. I was unfair. I gave you 2 robot examples. But as you can see, computers are getting better at generating. Of course, they're not definitely there yet with Shakespeare and other masters in literature, but they're getting there over time. Music. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when I walked on stage, there was this Beatles-like music. Well, that actually was created in machine intelligence as well. And none of you guys realized, right? It didn't sound strange at all. And that was generated by Sony, by a computer system that listened to a lot of old Beatles tunes. So think one day that elevator music that you hear might one day just be generated by a computer. And art. Yes, this is creepy looking, but this creepy looking image was generated by Google's deep mind and deep dream system. And of course, it's actually done better than some human artists, selling for over $8,000 in art museums. So those are all examples of systems that creating art, creating literature in everyday our lives. But the next phase of the system are systems that evolve. And systems that evolve are ones that can adapt to nature and the environments around us. So when we're kids, we're taught things, right? We're taught what is an apple, what is a pear, and we're also taught what is a tiger, so that we can run away when we see it. But unlike computers, we don't need to see millions of images of a tiger before we learn that we need to run. And if we did, I mean, we would not be here because we'd all be dead. But a computer, though, right now at least, needs thousands and thousands of images to learn from it. Unlike us, all we need are a couple different images of rabbit, and we'll know that all 3 of these, even though they're completely different, are all just different manifestations of a bunny. And a system that evolves is one that can adapt to an environment, and is also what people call general intelligence. And this general intelligence is what we're fascinated by in movies, such as Her, Ex Machina, and also The Terminator. And general intelligence is when we think the singularities happens. when computer intelligence matches that of human intelligence and potentially surpasses it. And the singularity is also what you hear so many leaders tweeting and fighting at each other about. On one end, you have Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking proclaiming that the world is going to end with artificial intelligence. And then on the other end, you have people like Mark Zuckerberg saying that will save us with new advantages in healthcare and things that come with AI. But what's really going to happen then? No one knows. No one knows really what's going to happen at that moment of singularity. But until then, we should take advantage of AI and know how to use it and how it's being applied everywhere. So with that, AI is already here. It's not something new. It's in all the different products we use. It's in our interconnected environment around us today. And then something as simple as Spotify Discover Weekly, where Spotify will figure out the songs that you like and create a personalized music list just for you based upon your music taste of the songs that you've upvoted or downvoted. Google Translate, especially here as we're in such an international audience. Google Translate is now using deep neural nets to help translate from one language to another. It's gotten so good that as of last year, certain languages translations from English to Spanish and Spanish to English are almost on par with human translators. Do Not Pay. This was a company started by my friend Jeff Broder, and it's a chatbot that allows you to intelligently fight unfair parking tickets. Now you can use vision technologies to identify when Kate has a new bag, and you can make sure that you have a system that automatically purchases it. Or sports fans out there, now you can use AI to help coaches figure out who to play on the field at the right time, using intelligence systems to map out the players on the pitch and to figure out how will this team play against that. The tube, I mean, who here took the tube this morning? The company behind the Oyster card is now exploring ways so that we don't even have to tap our Oyster card. We can just walk through the turnstiles and magically get on the tube. And Piccadilly Circus. The new Jumbotron that's out there now has hidden cameras embedded in it that can identify the color, the make, and the model of the car, and automatically change the ads depending on who else is around it. Amazon Go now created a cashierless store where you can just walk in, take a drink, take some bell peppers, and walk out without paying because it can scan your face and recognize who you are and automatically charge your account. Driverless cars. I mean, we don't need to go there, but you know that that is using vision technologies of AI to help identify objects and drive more safely. And healthcare. Healthcare is one of the most popular and active applications of AI. This startup here, based in London and Berlin, raised 40 million euros just last week. It's a chat-based app where you can go and tell it your ailments, being like, I have a headache of this severity, and it will help you diagnose what it is. And radiology scans. Now, vision technology can identify lung cancers, heart disease, and other types of diseases better than some doctors can. But of course, we're not saying we should replace doctors. A lot of these technologies are being used to augment doctors and help them reach more patients. And finally, wherever there are opportunities, finance and hedge fund firms are bound to follow. So the Man Group, which is based here in the UK, is $100 million of assets under management. And they take $14 billion of that $100 billion, and they use artificial intelligence to trade it automatically. So throughout the entire process of your business, all the different functions, they're applications of AI. And so we created this chart just to show you just some of the ways that artificial intelligence is playing in each area. OK, so you're like, great. Adelyn, you've told me about the framework of AI, how to think about it, and how AI is now in every part of our lives. But what does it mean for me? What does it mean for me as an HR professional and a talent professional today? And how is it going to change my world? You guys recognize this, right? The talent funnel. Very common, hiring, onboarding, and retaining. Every part of this talent funnel, though, can be augmented and enhanced with machine learning. So let's just start with hiring. One of the fundamental challenges of hiring is that we have intrinsic biases, unconscious biases that come out as early as the job description. So now companies, such as TechSU, are using natural language processing to go through the job description and help us rank and score how likely is that job description going to attract the type of applicants that we want. For example, a same job description can be written in two ways, either with a growth mindset or with a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is one that would focus on words such as loves to learn, seeks new challenges, whereas a fixed mindset one focuses on the best and the brightest, rock star, superstar. And studies have shown that women are intimidated to apply to a fixed mindset type of job description. They're less likely to apply, even though they may be just as qualified. So simply by changing the words in a text of that same job description, you're more likely to attract female applicants if you just tweak some of those words from fixed to growth. And experiences have shown that roles filled with women are twice as likely to contain growth mindset keywords. This one ring true to you? Many recruiters spend nearly 60% of their time reading resumes. Some nods here. So wouldn't it be wonderful if a lot of that can be automated? Well, I know you're thinking, yes, we have resume screening systems already. How is AI going to be different? Well, systems now will not just merely screen a resume based on the number of keywords and how many times it says engineer. It will actually look at their history and background and work experience intelligently to match. So it's taking basic, simple semantics and taking it to a higher level. Another example, web interviews. Especially if you're hiring massive amounts of people, now you can use web and video interviews and use facial recognition to figure out how often does a candidate smile? How personable are they? How likely would I want to put this candidate in front of a customer? And what's really cool is a lot of these technologies can reduce biases, especially if their analyst is having a bad day when reviewing that video. Or these systems can now reduce the biases of attractiveness, for example. And as we know, attractiveness doesn't correlate with actual end performance. And you can de-bias your hiring practices. Skills and competency tests. Now you can use machine learning to help you tease apart different cognitive traits and different personality traits. Rather than having someone in our interview say, I am very flexible, or I like challenges, you can actually test it. For example, I practiced and tested and played with some of these games, one of them being the money game. And it tested how likely would I give money to a stranger. And through that simple game, was able to figure out that I have a good sense of trust and skepticism. So with these games, you can now really test and figure out true biases within a human candidate. Retention. As we move down the funnel, right? Retention is key. How do you keep your core star talent? And using machine learning, you can look at hundreds of different factors of a job description, from their title, to how long someone's been in position, to some of things such as how bad is their boss? Like, is their boss really loses a lot of candidates? And using these systems, you can score and proactively identify candidates that are at risk of leaving, and proactively find new job opportunities, give them new challenges, so that you can retain your core talent. And then finally, education and training. How do we continue to up-level our existing employees? One of my favorite examples is in this Georgia Tech University, where the professor decided to create a bot called Jill Watson, because it was based on IBM Watson. And he did not tell the students, but Jill would be a new TA and answered questions. And throughout the course of the class, Jill was able to answer 40% of the people's inquiries. 40%. That allowed more of the human TAs to answer higher level questions and really focus and spend more time with the students. And so when Jill Watson's true identity was revealed, she definitely generated some really funny responses, and including a nomination for TA Award. And finally, as in anything, there's always going to be trolls. And so someone definitely asked, "Hey Jill, are you available for dinner this evening?" And Jill intelligently responds with silence. So how AI can transform our world? It's going to reduce human biases, it's going to increase your efficiencies, and help make you connect with your candidates and your talent better. But you might ask, right, what does it mean for me? Earlier, Deborah asked, are you afraid of robot overlords and taking over our jobs? But as Eric Schmidt from Google says, there's going to be more jobs that are unfulfilled, and computers will make people smarter. The number of jobs will go up and not down when that happens. So more specifically, new jobs are rising with AI. With artificial intelligence, you have jobs of AI trainers who are teaching the system how to think. You are having AI data collectors, collecting the data and helping them tag it. So there are new jobs that are coming out instead of going away. Similarly, people were afraid in the 1990s of what was going to happen to tellers when ATM came around. But since the 2000s, there have actually been an increased number of ATMs around the world. And also the number of ATMs, the growth of that, has actually grown faster than the labor market. This sort of automation continued to happen also when the legal world got automated systems. The number of paralegals increased. And when spreadsheets came around, the number of financial analysts also increased because there was just more data that needed to be processed. And so more financial accountants still definitely kept their jobs. But let's talk about the evolution of the role of the HR professional. There's going to be now roles as trainers, explainers, and sustainers. As trainers, you'll be the ones training the AI system so that it can hire without bias. You'll tell it, these are the people that I want to hire, and you'll train it. You'll explain it. You will be that bridge between business and artificial intelligence transformations. You'll explain what's going to happen to people's roles, and you'll help them up-level and retrain their skills and help them explain and be relevant in a world of AI. And you'll also sustain it. You'll be those watchdogs, making sure that the AI systems are doing everything that it was designed to do, that it doesn't unintentionally bring in additional biases or start going off the rails. So you will be important in taking these different roles. And what can you do today, right? What does it mean for us, and what can you do? So first, learn. Stay up to date with technology. And you guys are already doing that. You're here today. You already know much more educated and know how to spot what is real AI, what is not, in the framework of AI technologies. Experiment. Don't be afraid to try and pilot that new tool. And even if you're using existing older systems, a lot of them are incorporating AI into them. So test it, play with it, don't be afraid. And then augment. And when we're all here about insights and mates instinct, and your instincts, your human distinction, it's different. It's something that computers cannot yet do. Focus on your creativity. Focus on your EQ. Focus on selling the candidates, helping them, understanding them, and helping your existing talent explore and work through your workforce. Focus on what is real to be human. And with that, you can stay relevant and make sure that you can augment your world with artificial intelligence. And again, you're already using AI. Just by using LinkedIn's system and having smart responses and quick replies, you're already smarter, right? You're already augmenting yourself with AI. So don't be afraid. Embrace AI. Thank you very much.